Hello, hello, hello. It's your host, Harrison Paul, and you're watching the Let's Talk Race Island. Today, we're going to get into a very serious topic. All scored 12 right now, but this topic I couldn't see it off tonight without getting it done. There's just something that there's a lot that I want to talk about. It's very broad what I want to talk about. And as you know, I tie everything to how this should affect or inspire us, or I guess alert us how to think or how to operate within Ireland. Again, I'm pulling something from America. There's a TikTok video that went viral of a doctor. A doctor. He's a doctor on paper, but this is the type of people we have who are putting our trust in, technically. It's very dangerous. It's very dangerous for our community. So enough of the talking. Let me just get right into it let me get straight into it so we can, sorry about that. So we can, start talking about it.
As a racist, gotten backlash before online, and it's horrible. But here we go. I've been an ear doctor for 10 years now, and a significant amount of my African American patients, while I'm doing a history and physical to understand better what's going on with their problem today, they have someone on the phone. They're either just talking on the phone or they're on FaceTime, but a large percentage of my African American patients have someone that's there in the room even though they're not there in the room. Why is that? When I, myself, not speaking for an entire race or ethnicity, have a doctor come in, I hang up my phone. Am I an outlier, or is this a trend that other people have recognized?
So, before I go any further, as you see, it was a hot mess, that video. And there's so much to unpack there. But it gets even worse. Well, it gets worse and better. He does this terrible apology. I don't appreciate how he didn't actually have a black woman in the video, considering the fact that you were offending black women. So if he was gonna attach a video, I would have thought he would attach a black woman, but anyway, whatever. And then apparently after this, he did another video that was like almost kind of what was me analogy. I'll try to put that video in here as well so you can see it. But right now I have this one right in front of me, and we're gonna watch it, and yeah.
African American people are currently and have historically been mistreated and endangered by the American medical system. I posed a question to the internet yesterday about an observation that I had made as an emergency medicine doctor, that a disproportionate amount of my African American patients were on their cell phones during medical encounters. And I thought I knew the answer, but I asked why. And there were a lot of people that were upset that I would talk about this on social media, and they were upset that I wasn't talking directly to my patients about it to get the answer. And I 100% get that. I should absolutely be doing more in my personal practice, in my immediate environment, to help make the medical environment a safer place for Black people. It was my hope that by making this video, I could reach a lot more people than I can reach in person, and address the fact that there are a lot of people who think that it's rude to be on the phone during a medical encounter. But it was my suspicion that this was rooted in very justified mistrust and fear of the medical system. To everyone that I have triggered and offended, I apologize.
Yeah. So this came up on my mother sent it to me. We're always having these chats. It's amazing. So she sent it to me, and she sent me how it was going down for dude, and I knew I would want to do a video on it. But let me rewind, because I want to talk about the healthcare system and Black people's relationship with that, and what this should evoke within us. So I have a story that I shot a video for. It was like a little TikTok video I was gonna do, and I never ended up uploading it. It's so funny because I'll tell you why. Because I'm funny. It's funny, right? So I did the video, and I'm gonna Lord help me, I'm gonna get into it and stuff like that. But like that day, I didn't respond. The day this happened to me, I didn't respond to this act of racism as well as I should have. And I came home and I told my mom about it, and I was like, yo, this happened. And, you know, I really love having her as a support system, you know what I mean? Like, because she was on my back. She was like, how are you talking online? You didn't tell him off. She was upset because she wished she was there, you know? And I want to divulge into this because it's so interesting what all the emotions I went through. So she goes to me, because she's tough on me. She's like, don't even put that video up, you know? Because I told her later on I did the video, don't even put that video up, you know? Because you gotta practice what you preach. You're telling people, you know, to stand up for themselves in these situations, and you yourself are not even doing it. I'm disappointed in you. And I was hurt that day, really, because you'll hear the story why. But like, she was right, you know? But that goes into the next part of why I love doing what I do, because I try to inspire people to get that strength, to put the battery in people's backs, because I understand that, you know, when you're up against establishments or the system, or, you know, a world that, you know, is leaned towards, not towards you. I think we've become very used to and accustomed to being compliant. And even me being a full-on Pan-Africanist, everything I am, I still have every day where I find myself still in the colonial mindset, where I just bend, where I worship, where where I accept lesser than I'm supposed to get. I allow people to push their boundaries because it's you know what I mean? It's them versus, you know, it's a worship. You know, if I'm gonna say, now I wanted to say worship the white man, but at the same time, this guy wasn't fully white. It wasn't fully white. He was a bit, you can tell he was like Asian with a bit of, yeah. But a lot of the times, especially the fact that they have a full-on British accent, blah, blah, it's practically the same thing. So I leave the house, right, to a dentist appointment. I was going through something tough with my tooth. I was having a really, really struggling. And I tried to avoid it because I just really don't like these healthcare systems. I would really try, you know, Mr. Natural, all sorts of things, take care of myself, blah, blah, blah. But I found myself in this predicament when it came to my tooth. So I had to go, called in, got a emergency appointment, and I'm being seen by this guy, right? And like I said, he's a bit Asian, everything like that. Now here's the joke, guys. Here's the butt of the joke. His surname is Patel. Anybody from the UK will know how hilarious that is. I went to go look him up. The dude's name is Patel, actually. So it's just hilarious that we all know who Pretty Patel is in the UK and what she represents. So this was just really on brand for this dude. But my good thing, Tilda was there with me, who is my girlfriend. She was there with me. And this guy was just so disrespectful the whole time, you know. He was absolutely unpleasant. He was putting me down. He was talking to me like, you know, listen, in the healthcare system, you're supposed to, you know, in any customer situation, the customer knows best, you know what I mean? That kind of a way. And you are serving the customer. I didn't at any point feel as though I was being served, you know. It was just a dude who was just talking down to me, running me down. And just every little question you ask, a question, what about this? You know, this, how did you leave it this long? Or it was just like condescending, you know. And what I love the most, because he talks about being on the phone. Good thing for me, my lady was there. So check this out, right? Even the way he spoke to her, because you know when they have to open your mouth in the dentist and they have to take like an x-ray and they ask, you know, everyone in the room has to get out. So I remember he said to her like, can you get out? And I was just like, no, please, no, nothing. And twice he had to take an x-ray, right? So the 2 times dude said like, I'll get out, you know? I'm like, bro, that's a lady, you know? But anyway, just out of bounds. Now, bear in mind, his assistant or nurse or dental nurse was actually a black woman, right? So it was kind of a paradox, everything that was going on. And really, I was just feeling sorry for this girl because I was wondering what does she go through. But I loved it the most because whenever he would talk to me, I was sitting on the chair. Whenever he would talk to me, I'd have to turn back this way. So Tilda, that's my girl, she was in the corner there. So I actually wasn't having really any eye contact with her during that process or whatever, that appointment. But I was so happy when we both left the room and she looked at me and she said, that guy was just being a complete and utter, like pain in the ass, And again, there's the good part because there's someone else there to say, no, you're not crazy, you're not unreasonable. I heard that. And you know what I'm trying to say? Like, so it was just horrible, and I'm not going to get really into the detail, but that was it. Barely even helped me, by the way. I ended up leaving there. He prescribed me something or whatever, and then he didn't even really give me pain. Look, the dude was just like not wanting to help me, was just whatever. And I want to get into that today. And then when I left, I was just like, wow, like, this is what they call white collar crimes. It's like when you go into places that you don't expect that to happen, and it's so mind-boggling where you would expect there to be integrity in places such as like a hospital, a workplace, or whatever, and there's zero integrity. I guess that's like such a hopeless feeling. So like at that point, I'm like, whoa, like, and to touch on the how my mom was kind of on my back about like, yo, you should have stuck it to the dude and all of that. I end up saying this later. When we as Black people are taught to be compliant, right? We're taught to be compliant. We're taught to, actually, before I even say that, I want to play a quick video that I really think is going to be helpful for me to say this before I even go any further. Right now, I have a little video of Thierry Henry, and I seen it just today, and I was like, you know what? This is going to be a perfect point for me to make while I'm doing this. Check this out.
From the Caribbean, my parents came early to France, which they call it the continent. It is still France because they are French islands, Guadeloupe and Martinique. But we always say going to France. It was the dream for that era to go to the continent, to go to France, to have a better life, to try to make sure that we could have a better life. But when you grew up there, you dream of going to France because it's better, because it's like, in bracket, the American dream, which actually it is the French dream. I'm sure it was the same for you when you arrive in France. Make sure you don't make any mistakes. Make sure they don't come to us and say, oh, those guys from the Caribbean, they just arrive, and so don't speak Creole. Make sure you speak French well. Don't do this. Don't do that. We need to fit in. We don't want to get sent back to the Caribbean. We want to keep the house that we have. We want to keep the job that we have. Always that fear of getting sent back. Not so much for me because I was born in France, but they always had that chip on their shoulder of, make sure you don't make any mistakes. So I don't want anyone to say that my son was this, my son was that. Don't bring any problem. We came here to work. We came here to have a better life. So please do not spoil it. Kind of. So you always feel like you need to fit in and not belong.
Oh man, this stuff makes me so passionate about this stuff. I talk about post-traumatic slave syndrome. I seen a clip recently that spoke about, and it was confirming this for me. A lot of the fears that we feel is DNA. Do you know was scientifically proven that children, or not even children, grandchildren of anybody from Auschwitz actually inherited a fear or a trauma, like a post-traumatic stress. And what we don't get is that fear runs through us. I was talking to some dude yesterday and he was just kind of saying to me like, that narrative of like just black people need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. And I think we forget the power that our parents can remember a time where it was outwardly a black person is lesser. Before we are now in this time where it's covert, it was an overt fact. In their childhood, in their early 20s, basically, it was an early fact. More so when she was 16 years old. I always say this. It was a fact. So when we think and talk about what that does to the mind of a parent, our parents, and then they raise us with that, and then I want this to be known when we talk about Thierry here, obviously our parents feel negativity. They're not stupid. I really hate when people like, I just hate those people who try, those naysayers. It's like, our parents are not stupid. They know what they felt. They know what they felt when they went into workplaces. They know what they felt. They knew. They're not idiotic. And that's why you see, a lot of black people, I'm going to tell you, can testify to this. And Thierry is way older than me. And I can testify to his experience. Because it is in the DNA from the generations post-traumatic of knowing every time you try, you come out or you're knocked back in. I'm trying to find a way to describe this. I'm going to get back to the dentist. Follow me now. So we find ourselves, when I know someone's disrespecting me, I have that ingrained in me. And people want to know why I'm so passionate. And a dude said to me when he was talking to me yesterday, he was like, bro, it's all about capital. Capital doesn't matter if psychologically there's still damage. Capital was not, listen, Thierry Henry, a great legend of football. Capital didn't solve his problems. And how much black children will become the greatest footballer of all time and overcome a hurdle. So what I'm trying to do is address this experience and to tear down this wall and break this change in the mind. So even I, who bangs on about freedom and black freedom, I find myself where I'm being ill-treated in front of my lady. And I'm so programmed that I just like Thierry said, we don't want to be bad, known for being the bad, da-da-da-da. It was in our parents. They felt it. They felt unwelcome. The same people who just finished robbing from Africa now have the audacity to say, you are here on a very thin line. I hate immigration. I'm barely even accepting it. Just don't piss me off. And it's in the energy. This condescending energy. That's why he even said, don't talk Creole. There goes the narrative. Everything in history is today. The black man is uncivilized, unintelligent. So we all want to abandon African culture and become civilized. Behave. Yes, there is something called behaving white. For African people who were raised in a very colorful, flamboyant culture, there is such a thing as behaving white. And Thierry put it in perfect words here. So this is my footnote when we talk about the dentist experience. That's why I find myself just towing the line. And it's in us. And what we have to do as generation is say, hold on, we're not slaves anymore. Sounds crazy, right? That's the DNA. Hold on. We can put our foot down. Hold on. The white man, the white building is not God. If they see you, like Thierry says, as a bad Negro, it's not the end of the world. So I failed that day. I almost cried. Out of just like, life is an exam. It's a test, isn't it? And you're just always putting to work what the things you've just learned. You learn a lesson today, you put it to work tomorrow. I'm coming out of deep worship for white people. I'm coming out of that to worship to my own detriment. I want to go down that and describe worship and what that is, but I don't have time today. I've got so much to get through. So I get home and I let it go. I take the L. And one of the first things Tilda said to me when we left that dentist was, I said, I can't believe that just happened. I can't believe someone who's supposed to serve and help me just spoke to me. Like, just really just did that. And then she said, that must be how now you know how black women feel when they're 4 times more likely to die from childbirth. I said, girl, this why you need a black woman, my brothers. When you can leave a spot and your black woman gets you, this is the part I lavish in being with a black woman and keep her 100 with you. And she goes, yeah, this is what, and we were indulging in that. Then walking home, I was, in that moment I was like, whoa, my head spun, and I was like, yeah. I always protest on that. I use it as a protest. I use it as a weapon. Because we all know racism is so covert and it's so riddled in our society that all we can do is hang on to a video of someone being murdered or a video of someone being a statistic. But you can't call out feelings or vibes. Vibes that paralyze us, paralyzed our parents. Look at what Thierry's saying. Paralyze us. And you live with it. And I began then to say to myself, I'm so glad I went through this. Now I hadn't been in a doctor in a while. I hadn't understood that stat. I understood that stat. And I'm going to describe then why they're at the phone. How can somebody serve you? Listen, serving is humility. That's why they always encourage, we always remind leaders or leaders who are becoming leaders or learning to become leaders. You're a servant of the people. Because a leader can get messed up thinking that I am somebody's master. When really a leader is someone who serves the people the best. A leader twists and turns thinking about his people. Doesn't sleep. So there's humility in leadership. There should be humility in a place of power. So if you're helping people in the hospital, you have become this person's carer, servant. What they say matters most. You want them to feel comfortable. You want them to feel hurt. Hello, we have customer service for something as simple as buying a laptop online. Now we're talking about people's health and lives on the line. You're serving the people. So how does it hit me that day. He didn't want to feel like he was serving me. He wanted to feel like he was bossing me. And I'm going to point everybody to a documentary I watched today as I was studying and preparing for this, called The Black Maternity Scandal. And basically, some woman said something very powerful, and she said, when they're dealing with a black patient, they'll say, I'm gonna do this. Like, I'm gonna take your bloods. When it's dealing with a white patient, there'll be I'm gonna do this, do you mind? If somebody in society has a cancer of the perception of a Negro being lesser, and yes, you don't call them the N-word, it's subconscious, because there's images shown of Africa since we all came out the womb, yet Africa is the creditor for the entire world. Today I watched a video. There's trillions in the ground in Africa, the richest piece of land in the world. This is why it was important for them to perpetuate a narrative that we are helping poor Africa. That is what think of an abusive boyfriend. He loves you, but he wants to make you feel like you cannot do without him because he is insecure, because he knows you got it. He knows you're intelligent. He knows you're capable. He knows you're rich. So you need to look at the relationship between the West and Africa. And my homie said this, I really loved it. Like, we're being pimped. Somebody is under control. He knows you make the money, but he makes you feel like you need him. That's why they perpetuate the narrative against Africa. When you're serving somebody now, this is where that narrative they use so they can make iPhones and they can benefit and they can take uranium and lithium and all the things that make the Western civilization move and function and profit. What's collateral then is the fact that when they push these narratives, a doctor who was probably raised by a father or mother who was raised in those times, who had warped belief systems. Now this person is serving you, and they have to be humbled and serving you, and they cannot get themselves. He could not get himself to do it. He could not get himself to serve me. His pride would not allow him to serve a black man. So he wanted to feel better than a black man and spoke down to him. And ultimately, I got an awful experience with the dentist. Thank God he was not actually going to work on my teeth that day. He told me he couldn't. I was happy because I could only imagine now if he had to do work. I'm supposed to believe that he was going to deal with me patiently, carefully, ask me if something hurts, ask me. And this is when we look at black women. If someone looks down on a black woman, doesn't respect her, you expect this person to serve this person. I just understood how that happens then. And we have the biggest one that black women saying that they're not listened to. They're not listened to because someone's lacking respect for you. And some dude who argued with me yesterday, he said to me, oh, well, I gave him a stat. I said, what do you say about this kind of a stat? And he goes, oh, well, capital. Get money for yourself and make sure you're never put in that position. Again, that whole red pill type mentality. You get money, you can make everything work for yourself. If you pull yourself up by your bootstrap, blah, 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 blah. Now, I'm not preaching that all is doomed. Life is going to be crap for you. I'm just preaching that we have to be mindful of this and we have to attack this problem in a specific way. Here we have, I'm going to move on to this now. Serena Williams, a black woman, a famous, rich, wealthy, suffered the same thing as any broke black woman would. What does that tell us? I'm going to read a status that she wrote after her first daughter was born. I didn't expect that sharing our family story of Olympia's birth and all of the complications after giving birth would start such an outpouring of discussion from women, especially black women, who have faced similar complications and women whose problems go unaddressed. These aren't just stories. According to the CDC, Center of Diseases Control, black women are over 3 times more likely than white women to die from pregnancy or childbirth related causes. We have a lot of work to do as a nation, and I hope my story can inspire a conversation that gets us to close this gap. This is why I believe what will save black people and save this world. No, I have not made Let's Talk Racism to our page to complain about white people and say how this and that. I want black people to structure up psychologically. You cannot, if I close my eyes and pretend racism doesn't exist, it will wish away. There are statistics show black women are 4 times more likely to die from childbirth. And I'm going to actually put this test up right now. I'm going to put it on the screen so you guys can see. Right? Perinatal mortality within African community in Ireland needs urgent investigation. Check this out. In March, a documentary called The Black Maternity Scandal revealed black women are 4 times more likely to die in pregnancy than white women. Check this out. This is my favorite part, and I'm going to get to my point here today. Right? Black maternity mortality rates have come to the fore as part of the Black Lives Matter movement and the emergence of groups such as Black Mothers Matters. Are you listening? Black maternity mortality rates have come to the fore as part of the Black Lives Matter movement and emergence of groups such as Black Mothers Matter. This is the Irish Examiner. Guys, I keep yelling this. I always ask my mom this because I love it, because I think maybe it's just what she goes, Harrison, I've been alive for, I'm not going to give away a woman's age. I've been alive for years. Long enough, guys. Not long enough at the same time. I have never seen a movement like the George Floyd movement. And I've been alive for a long time. And it was the power of the internet. When we are in our place of consciousness and of focusing on the problem, don't let white people tell you that when you focus on the problem, you make it worse. I keep seeing these videos of white people saying, I'm sure racism, people are bringing race into our society even more. No, like Thierry said, our parents just suffered with it in silence. It was their normality. And now we have a generation that has the power of the internet to unite us as Africans all around the world with our experiences. And I love the fact that It showed that everything happens when we step into a place of protest, of working, of talking about it, of equipping ourselves psychologically on the topic. And I want to encourage Black people that we should not be, they have tried and successfully with a lot of us, discouraged us from the topic to make themselves feel more comfortable. And you, to be involved with white society means so much to you that you have nullified a very important topic to discuss. You know, again today, I watched a little more on George Nchenko's sister, a young man who was killed in Dublin unjustly by police, 27 years old. I was watching a BBC conversation, interview came up with her, and two, actually, a Virgin Media and a BBC one. She spoke very well. And Gloria, if you see this, I just want to say, you've done so well. I know it must be so difficult for you. And I know that was 6 months ago, but girl, you did so well. You did so well. I just want to say that you just did so. I was looking at you because you know me. I do this. You know, I'm so passionate about this topic. So I always see Black people crumble in those moments. They shy away. They're afraid. I don't want to use the race card. They allow that discouragement white people give us to discuss what we actually feel for approval, and we just say no, I don't say no, I don't. And we do that a lot within Black Irish culture. Americans just say it straight up, but Black Irish culture, we're still trying to please because we're still trying to, not scare them away by discussing the topic. And I was just every moment hoping, because I feel the energy very antagonistic about you've lost your brother. And I was just scared that each line would be the line that you backed down or you pulled away and you stood. And you stood. And your brother would be so proud, and you stood. And I can tell you, Gloria, and we can have this conversation now in front of everybody. I bet these things that you learned in this season of your life when it comes to dealing with white people, when you've come to being in the trenches of dealing and you get to see the depths of these people's hearts when it's about something real. And unfortunately, people think that this stuff is just about do I get an invite from my workmates to the pub and whatever? But when push comes to shove, I bet you saw some people who were very ethical and very sophisticated. You could see the deep racism that they had dressed in articulate language, and you could feel that pain, and it teaches you what a devil really looks like. And you can either choose to turn around and say what a lot of Negroes do, it don't exist, don't bring that to me, I don't want to talk about it, I don't want to address it, am I bad? And they shy and they shrink from those moments. Or you have to face it. And unfortunately, it had to be the death of your brother that would make you driven to say, I know what I know. I know what I'm seeing. And you see, sis, and we'll have this conversation in front of everybody. I want everybody, without having to experience a dead brother, to know the importance in understanding this revelation. That we are only accepted or tolerated as far as we don't stand on something. And if we don't stand on something and we stand on being Irish, you're tolerated. But what use is that when a black mother and a black woman like you and siblings lose a brother, and someone loses a son, and they're manhandled by our Irish media, and we don't have black people in the parliament to speak on our behalf? How are we going to get black people to speak on our behalf? We have to become a people who are self-determined. And there's a psychological sense where we are persistent. This would have to be everyday life. That's why I said in my last video regarding that the Harvard, even as we saw Claudine Gay being fired from her spot, having to resign, it's constant war. It's constant war with people who want to keep you marginalized. And as I always say this, as much as people are happy with their pub friends who are Irish, we have to ask ourselves the question, could we really see people within the Dáil, the Irish Parliament, who speak on behalf of us? Considering we built this country off slavery, considering neocolonialism brings so much revenue to Europe and anyone in Europe, should we be here apologetic? Like Thierry said, as if we're afraid. Is that really fair? For us as children of our ancestors to come here and be apologetic and afraid? And then when something tragic like this happens to our dear brother Georgianchenko and Gloria and the sister and the mother and the father, and we don't have anybody to back them, we don't have real black movements. And this is not because there's no racism here. I say this over and over. There's a docile spirit and a compliant and obedient and a fearful, a slave mentality, slave spirit that the African brought with him here that needs to die, and it will die by educating yourself. So you know, no, not educating yourself on when I get a degree, because we know lots of Negroes with degrees who are still worshiping. You need to empower yourself to know the history that they tried to blotch out. What you brought to Ireland, what your ancestors, what's happening with neocolonialism. So you walk around here. We got general election coming up in Ireland in March of this month. Who are we voting? I just saw a text message that Dr. Umar posted on his page. From a black woman, not a young black woman. She said she was from the 70s or 60s. I forget what she said. I think she said the 60s. And she was an old lady coming to Dr. Umar and saying, who do I vote this year? Black people band together and they want to know who will have who will have black people in mind. Our problems, our struggles, our experiences, and better it here. But we don't even think that we're worth that discussion. Black women should be I said this in my last video, should be coming together in kitchens and saying, who looks like he cares about black people? Which one of them? We're not even at a place where they're trying to pretend like they care about black people. Because we're so docile, they know the Negroes will take anything what's given. Not on, guys. It has to end here. Georgianchenko, rest in peace, our brother. I'm really watching his story as we've come up to his anniversary. No answers. While all of us just think that our life in Ireland is about enjoyment with your friends in the pub. Everywhere in Ireland, and you know there's a black person getting the short end of the stick somewhere. There's a black woman being laughed at for her African accent, being undermined in the workplace for her African accent. Everywhere in Ireland. We need to be people who equip ourselves, who are prepared to lose relationships with white people, who are prepared to stand on something, who are prepared to be the bad Negro, not the good Negro. The one that knows that I have to comply because these are the people that give me my job, my mortgage. How about taking up a new mentality? I know my rights. And if anybody threatens them, I'm willing to take it all the way. Draw a new line for yourself, Negro. And say, if anybody crosses them, that's what I'm teaching myself. That in a moment I'm in a dentist, and if I'm not dealt with properly, this all psychologically, if this psychological change happens, Negro, it won't just be for me and the dentist. It will mean the next person that man talks to. And I'll sign off with how the story went. I called that evening to try to get my lick back. And I told them, that guy didn't speak to me properly. They said to me, that's fine. We'll jot it down and report it to the principal dentist. They called me in then a few days later. And I went in. And I'm happy because I got to express to him. And again, a gaslighting place, but fortunately for him, I really schooled this guy. I really schooled him. I put him to bed, put him nicely, taught him something. You can only imagine. I do podcasts. I can talk. I schooled this white man who was trying to talk to me with this very condescending. I just told him. First of all, he goes, "Oh, I know. We know Patel. He's sometimes a bit of a cranky butt, you know. But what made you think it was racism?" And I said, I'm sure he's not racist at all. I said, first things first, stop, you're not black. Stop telling us, told this guy, stop telling us what is or what isn't. You should be quiet. If you want to declare your worker racist or not racist, how about get a black manager who can speak and step in on moments like this? Because I won't be told by told by a white man what is and what isn't racist. Finish them there. Conversation went on, but and I even wish I had got it on tape. And this dude turned to me, he said to me, because his back was so against the wall, he said to me, he goes, listen, the public, we don't need the public. The public need us. I had schooled him so much on how incompetent incompetent that was, that he then just signed off by saying, listen, we can do what we want to do. You need us, we don't need you. So the pride was so much, then rather than saying, I'm sorry, oh goodness, you're gonna now stoop to saying such a reckless sentence. Can I imagine if I put that on ITV, saying the dentist down there said, I've never seen anywhere that customer service is the bottom. That's a shock. I said, wow, well done, you're running the business that actually has successfully put customer. I thought, basically, that's a lie. You're lying. You're lying. You're lying. So, please like, share, subscribe. Guys, this relationship between black people and the healthcare system, it's not only about that. Yes, black women are 4 times more likely to die. Yes, black people are not treated well everywhere. And no, we are not going to force people without a conscience to have one. If we can't give them one, they won't have one. But we need to be assertive people, self-determined, where we do not bend. Like Thierry said, we have to break that curse, that African curse that was started with us, our ancestors, and was beaten into our ancestors, and then was continued in a more covert way in generations after. That demon, that curse still is living, and we have to kill it. Every day, it's a day-by-day thing. I'm working to kill it off. And I'm telling you, Once Africa is free psychologically, Africa will be free financially. What you see going on with Africa, what you see happening with George Zinchenko and his family, and no one is there. Black people have been here for how long? No one is there. No spokespeople. That is what you call post-traumatic slave syndrome. We are still colonizing our minds. We need to know that we must be standing up and be heard. Thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy.
And I'm on a mission for you.